failure doesn't mean you're finished. It just means you're in the middle of the process. See, the problem isn't failure. It's what you do after failure. Most people confuse a setback with a dead end. They think one bad moment equals a bad future. But listen, quitting is permanent. Failure is temporary. Failure is feedback, not finality. That's a perspective shift most people never learn to embrace because we live in a world that glamorizes the result, but rarely highlights the messy middle. When you fail at something, your natural instinct is to see it as a reflection of who you are. You tell yourself you're not good enough, not smart enough, not disciplined enough. That voice in your head repeats the lie that failure equals identity. But here's the truth. Failure is not who you are. It's just information about what didn't work this time. It's data. It's feedback from reality. And feedback is the most valuable teacher you'll ever meet. The problem is most people get offended by failure instead of educated by it. They run from it, avoid it, and hide it, when in reality, failure is just the scoreboard giving you a clue about how to play better. Next round, think about it like this. When a scientist runs an experiment and it doesn't work, they don't throw their hands up and say, "Well, I'm a failure as a scientist." They adjust variables. They change conditions. They retest because they know failure is not final, it's instructional. But when you apply this same principle to your personal life, suddenly it feels heavier. You fail a test and you label yourself dumb. You fail at business and you label yourself a loser. You fail in a relationship and you label yourself unworthy. The labels are the real prison, not the failure itself. The failure was just feedback showing you what didn't work so you could try something new. If you shift your mindset to treat failure as feedback, you remove the sting. Instead of being paralyzed by shame, you move forward with curiosity. Why did this fail? What can I learn? What needs to change? Suddenly, failure stops being a dead end and becomes a detour sign. It's not saying stop. It's saying not this way. Try another route. And if you keep trying routes, eventually you find the one that gets you to the destination. The only way you truly fail is by quitting. As long as you're still testing, still adjusting, still moving, you're still in the game. And that means you still have a shot. The truth is, every successful person you admire is standing on a mountain built out of their failures. They didn't arrive at the top by skipping mistakes. They arrived by collecting them and learning from each one. The reason they're ahead is not because they're smarter, more talented, or more gifted than you. It's because they refused to let failure have the last word. They saw it for what it really was, information about what doesn't work, not condemnation about who they are. That's the key difference. When you internalize failure, it kills your momentum. When you externalize it as feedback, it fuels your growth. And let's be honest, it hurts to fail. No one enjoys falling flat. But pain is part of the tuition you pay for progress. Growth costs discomfort, and failure is simply one of the installments. You can either pay that price and move forward or avoid it and stay exactly where you are. The question you need to ask yourself is this: do you want to protect your ego in the short term, or do you want to build your future in the long term? Because you can't do both. Protecting your ego means quitting after every failure to avoid feeling small. Building your future means swallowing your pride, treating failure like a lesson, and trying again with new wisdom. When you reframe failure as feedback, it also changes the way you view time. You stop seeing each failed attempt as wasted months or wasted years. You start seeing them as invested lessons that make you sharper, stronger, and more capable for the next round. Think about how many people give up right before the breakthrough simply because they couldn't stomach another failure. They were one adjustment away from success, but they quit because they thought failure meant finality. What if Edison had given up after 100 attempts at creating the light bulb? What if athletes stopped training after one bad game? What if entrepreneurs quit after one failed product? The truth is, if failure was final, none of the things you use every single day would even exist. Everything around you is built on someone else's persistence through repeated failure. So the next time you fail, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What's this trying to teach me?" The question you ask determines the future you create. Why me? Mindset keeps you stuck in pity and shame. What's this teaching me? Mindset turns the failure into fertilizer. Fertilizer doesn't smell good. It's messy, but it grows things. Failure, when used correctly, grows wisdom, resilience, patience, and creativity. And those are the qualities that will make you unstoppable if you refuse to quit. Because the truth is, anyone can keep going when it's easy, but the ones who win are the ones who keep going when it's hard. Failure is feedback, not finality. Every single setback is just a signal, a marker on the road pointing you toward the next step. Some of those markers will redirect you, some will slow you down, and some will test how much you want what you're chasing. But none of them are there to stop you. They're there to shape you. The only question that matters is whether you will listen to the feedback or surrender to the lie that it defines you. Focus on the next step, not the whole mountain. That simple shift in perspective can be the difference between moving forward and giving up completely. The problem is, when we set a goal, we usually see it as one massive climb, a peak so high that every glance at it makes us feel small. We look at how far we still have to go, how much time it will take, how many obstacles might appear, and the weight of it paralyzes us. We convince ourselves that if we can't see the finish line right now, if we can't guarantee success today, then there's no point in starting. That's how most people quit before they even begin. They stare at the size of the mountain instead of placing their foot on the next step in front of them. The truth is, no one climbs a mountain in one giant leap. No one builds a career in one day. No one transforms their life with a single action. Progress has always been built step by step, decision by decision, small choices compounded over time. And the irony is, when you obsess over the peak, you miss the simplicity of the process. You can't control the whole mountain, but you can control the next step. You can't solve the next 100 problems, but you can solve the one right in front of you. Success is not a product of overwhelming force. It's a product of relentless focus. When you narrow your attention to the next step, the journey becomes manageable and the mountain loses its power to intimidate you. Think about how overwhelming it feels when you set a huge goal. Let's say you want to lose weight, start a business, or break a bad habit. If you focus on the entire end result, you'll feel crushed under the weight of how far you have to go. But if you focus on the next step, drink more water today, make one phone call, resist one temptation, the path becomes clear. It's not easy, but it's clear, and clarity builds confidence. Confidence builds consistency, and consistency builds progress. Suddenly, what felt impossible becomes a series of small, winnable battles. That's how mountains are climbed, one step at a time, repeated without stopping. The danger of focusing on the whole mountain is that it feeds perfectionism and discouragement. You feel like if you can't be perfect right away, then you've already failed. You measure yourself against the summit before you've even started the hike. That's why people burn out. That's why people quit. They want the reward without the process. But the process was never meant to be skipped. It was meant to shape you into the kind of person who can stand on the summit and stay there. Every step you take prepares you for the next one. Skip the steps, and even if you reach the top, you won't have the strength to remain there. The climb is what builds the character, and the character is what sustains the success. If you shift your focus to the next step, something powerful happens. You start to see progress. Not in the sense of being done, but in the sense of being in motion. Motion creates momentum, and momentum is what carries you through days when motivation disappears. People often wait for motivation to act, but motivation comes after action, not before it. You don't get motivated sitting at the bottom of the mountain staring at how far it is to the top. You get motivated when you take a few steps and realize you're higher than you were yesterday. That small victory pushes you to take another step, then another, until you've built a rhythm that keeps you moving even when you feel tired. There's another truth here. Focusing on the next step keeps you grounded in the present. Most of our stress, fear, and anxiety comes from living in the future, imagining everything that could go wrong along the way. But the future is out of your hands. The only thing you control is right now. And right now, you don't need to conquer the mountain. You just need to lift your foot and place it forward. Right now, you don't need to finish the marathon. You just need to take the next stride. Right now, you don't need to know the next 100 answers. You just need to solve one problem. Living in the present keeps you from being crushed by the weight of tomorrow. The mountain shrinks when you focus on the ground beneath your feet. And let's not forget this, every step counts, even the small, seemingly insignificant ones. The decision to wake up early, the choice to study one more page, the act of saying no to an old habit. Those tiny wins may not look like much in the moment, but stacked together over weeks, months, and years, They build an unshakable foundation. People underestimate what can be achieved with steady, consistent steps because they're too busy chasing shortcuts. But shortcuts rob you of growth. They might get you there faster, but they won't make you stronger. It's the small steps that toughen you, discipline you, and teach you resilience. And resilience is the one thing you'll need most if you want to keep climbing when the path gets steep. Imagine a hiker on a mountain trail. If he spends all his time looking at the peak, he'll stumble on the rocks at his feet. But if he looks down and carefully takes one step after another, before long, he'll look up and realize the summit is closer than he thought. That's how life works. The peak looks impossible when you're at the bottom. But the bottom is not the measure of the climb. It's just the starting line. The climb happens in inches, in hours, in small decisions nobody applauds. And that's the beauty of it. When you focus on the next step, you take the power back from fear. Fear thrives in the big picture. Courage thrives in the small picture. Courage says, I don't know how I'll make it to the top, but I know I can take this next step. The whole mountain will overwhelm you, but the next step will strengthen you. And strength built today will carry you through tomorrow. When you focus on the next step, you silence the voice that says you're not capable, because capability isn't about finishing, it's about continuing. And as long as you're continuing, as long as you're stepping, you're still in the fight. And that's where transformation begins